Marie, welcome to the Coach's Journey podcast.
Thank you, Robbie. Time for exploration.
Yeah, it absolutely will be. And we were connected by a lovely friend of mine, I think last year. I tell you what, can we date it? Because there's a thesis sitting on a shelf behind you. If people are watching on video, it was either around the time the thesis was coming out, or you just finished it, or something like that. That probably dates when we last spoke. And yeah, and now here we are, and I'm really grateful that you've made the time today to speak to us on the show. And maybe like how we often start conversations on this podcast is, and I don't know where, and this always takes us into an interesting moment in somebody's journey, which is sometimes recent and sometimes a long time ago. And it's to think about the idea of coaching, which is a part of the work that you do. And when did you first come across coaching in, and I know that you've, for example, you've worked in sports broadcasting, so you probably came across the idea of coaching a long time ago, but I don't know when you came across the kind of coaching that you do now.
To me, it was a long process of discovery, and I would say even understanding. And this is because it was people telling me that was who I was, that they saw me as a coach, or that what I was doing was coaching, and to me it was like, what do you mean? And at the same time, I've been a consultant for more than 25 years. And working as a consultant over the years, I realized that my best work was not when I was going to the place, doing an intervention, saying people what was best to be done, and then leaving the place and seeing months after that maybe things were not holding into shape. But I had changed over the years, for more than 10 years, slowly into co-creation processes, into observing or creating conversations with the client, in co-learning processes, and understanding that I was there facilitating the processes. And also in my many different facets, working as an executive producer, working in broadcasting, as a cultural manager, managing teams and all these things, I started to observe how I was naturally learning how to manage in a different way. And it was through my MBA, my master in creative leadership at the Berlin School, that many of my students or colleagues or fellow students might approach me and told me, I don't know what you are doing in your life. I don't really, but you better stop and start focusing into coaching, because there is where I see that you have your real talent is in there. And that got me curious. And so I started trying to understand. It was through the thesis, investigating or trying to better understand what does it mean to lead from the heart, that more or less halfway through, I saw that the best way to teach was to coach. The best way to manage was to coach. And then I thought, I really need to fully understand what is this coaching thing really about. And I had been in touch with the Berkeley Coaching Institute a couple of years before, and that's when I decided to immerse myself into better understanding what does that really mean to coach.
Lovely. And so many things in there that I'd love to get into, explore more. Maybe the first one is, so do you remember who the first person was, or one of the first people who said you should be coaching? Was it on the MBA or was it before that?
No, I didn't work for the MBA. I work for FIBA, the International Basketball Federation. This is the global.
Sorry, I was talking about the Masters. Is there a basketball body
NBA.
called the NBA?
Yes.
Oh yeah, the NBA. Yeah.
NBA, in the NBA.
Yeah, in the Masters.
Sorry,
Before that.
I missed the word, and because of the basketball.
But you've just revealed a great, like, Marie, if people are like researching for this show and they're like me, or they're like, oh, who's Robbie got on the show? And they look you up and they scroll down LinkedIn, they'll have the fun discovery I did, which is like, right, you worked for the world governing body of basketball, and you've worked for like Barcelona, like La Liga. You've done some production for Spanish football and for Barcelona, I think, as well. So it's like, this is a part of, you kind of hinted at it in when you mentioned broadcasting, but this is a part of how you came to be here. Part of your story is that work, all of that different work.
Well, I think, yes, everything makes us who we are, no? And I never thought that, like that sports in a sense would take me into becoming a coach, like, because coaching comes from sports, like, and it's like, it's a spin-off. Let's put it, executive coaching is a spin-off of a sports coaching. But yeah, it's true that everything that you do in your life, it's part of the formative journey that you have. Who was the first one? I don't know. And I think, what one of the things that better helped to understand who I was listening better to the people around me, paying more attention to what people. And I had clients who were telling me, let's make a call and you do your coaching thing. I don't need to talk about the project. You do your coaching thing. What do you mean with my coaching thing? Or I just need to talk with you. The project, it's okay. Like, I think it was the repetition. I always, when working on broadcasting, live television, I always learn as an executive producer, I always learn, if you hear something twice, there's something in it. But if you hear it 3 times, then you better go there and check it, because it's about to explode in your face, or there is something, there's a treasure in there that you should go. So I don't remember, but and I had people telling me different, I remember one person telling me, when you speak, I listen, so you better be careful what you say. What do you mean by that? Like, so there's all those different hints that you get from people around, your clients, my classmates at the masters, my friends, this, that, and then it's like, so I think, and this is, most of the time for us people, it's more difficult to see our own talents when we look at ourselves at the mirror. We tend to look at the mirror and see what's missing. Oh, if I could be taller. Oh, if I could be smarter. Oh, if I could, whatever, like, but we then look at what is in there as the real uniqueness of your own authenticity, that it's shaping who you truly are. That's your superpowers are in there, and because your superpowers are so natural, it's like the fish swimming in water. I'm looking for the ocean. I'm looking for the ocean. You're swimming in the ocean. It's more difficult to see them. So I don't have like a timeline of who said what where, but it was a repetitive topic. And then at some point, as I said, at the moment that I fully started to understand what leading from the heart was, and I have this learning, teaching, growing, flourishing is in my spirit, then I really thought, I need to find a way to help people learn from the inside out.
And Marie, your background, the things you've done, there's a real variety in there. 25 years as a consultant is what you said before, but in a way that doesn't do justice to for me, it doesn't do justice to the texture and the different things that you've done in your work to this stage: curation, founding organizations or communities, the broadcasting we've talked about. How do you think about the story of your working life?
It was a journey of discovery and exploration, really, like, and I think to me, working and living, so being a person and being a professional have been very tight one to the other, no? So I have become the person who I am through work. So I do take my working journey is my personal flourishing journey as a person, no? And since the early age, I was looking for answers, and you know, like working on the different jobs, you know, those were tiny expressions of my different selves, my creative self, working as an artist, my communicative self, working as a radio presenter, my team builder self, working as a team manager, my performative self, working in live performances, my teaching self, my, you know, like my writing self, working in communication, my problem solver self, working as an engineer, like all my different, like exploring all my different self and learning out of it, no? Learning about my own self, discovering my own self, no? And they are very hybrid. They are very different. They are, it's a big palette of things, but there is always something in there, no? Like this, trying to be my best, trying to service in the best possible way, trying to generate a positive impact in the world, no? In whichever way, in whichever shape, in whichever situation, and that was it was my search. It was a search.
This might be a strange question given what you just said, and we'll come back to the kind of some of that in a minute. But I'm curious if there were, when you think about all those different selves that have been expressed and practiced and all the different roles you've done, whether somewhere, you know, the personal flourishing journey, it strikes me there are kind of two ways to learn on a personal flourishing journey. The moments when you really flourish, which you know, we can kind of think, oh, this is the kind of place I flourish, and the moments when we really don't flourish. And I'm wondering about those. Have there been moments that you really didn't feel like you were flourishing on the personal flourishing journey, and what did you learn from them?
I'm a profound, curious person, and with the danger of sounding not being humble, which I do believe I'm humble. I am very good at many different things, you know, like, and this, my ability to learn and doing things right, and my curiosity have put me always in a position where no matter what I was doing, if it was doing coffee behind the bar, or if it was directing a TV show, or if it was managing a team at an international live broadcasting event, I was always learning. No? And I think that's what has kept me, I would say, flourishing despite maybe not being in my spring. Let's say, or yet there were moments of wonder, no? Like, am I really where I should be? Am I really doing all I could be doing? Am I really and there were moments of discomfort. Yes, I can do this really well, but I am not that, or there's something else I need to be doing, no? So that moments where I needed more space to grow. I could feel like wherever I was working on with what I was working was creating oppression and not expansion on me, no, on that. So I could understand. So for you to understand, I quit television maybe, I don't know, maybe at least once a year for 15 years. At least once a year for 15 years. No? And yet nowadays, I believe if I am as good as I believe I am, and as my clients tell I am as a coach, it is because I never finally quit that time that I said I was quitting. There was still something to be learned, something to be discovered, something to be unveil, something to emerge, something to be better understood. No, so you are asking me, were there dark moments? There were moments where I felt lost. There were moments where I felt confused. There were moments where I felt that I was not in my place. As now I can say, I have found my place.
Yeah. Wow, what a beautiful thing to be able to say, right? It's the kind of thing, I've got a 2-year-old, it's the kind of thing I would wish for her, right? That just, some point in life, hopefully for all of it, right? That's the dream of, the dream. But at some point to be able to say that, like what a beautiful thing. I love the idea of quitting once a year for 15 years. Here's what it sounds like, but I'm curious if this is what it was, that there was this is an interpretation of what you just said, that in television, yeah, you could kind of, one part of you knew it wasn't your place, but another part of you, the curious part, knew there were still things to learn from it. Was it something like that? Was that the tension, or what was the tension that kept almost taking you away and then bringing you back?
Like you love the people, what you do, like the moment, like I think working live on TV is what helped me to understand what it is to be alive in life. No? Like what you're doing, it's being broadcasted to the whole universe. No? And that understanding of broadcasting that came from television itself, no, like this feeling at ease, calm and flow at the highest peak of tension, where there is not, you don't have even a second to react. So you are anticipating things. It's all about intuition, understanding that something is gonna go wrong on that corner, or something needs my presence in that other place, or what's with this person in there, like it's like, ooh, there's a high level of energy, and I still love that job, like, so you do love the job, but at the same time you feel like I need to grow, I need to grow, and that's right now, that's not the space, no. Or I need to find where is my roots, need something else. Where is it? It's not here. So it's not like I quit that because I didn't like, this is not good enough for me, this is not. And that's the difficulty, like that you love what you are doing and you're still growing in there, yet there is something else that requires your presence.
Oh, and like think together or explore together about that something else. But I wonder, just for listeners and for me, it's such an evocative picture of broadcast, which most people, I have my own experiences which have given me that, and I wonder, I have no academic research on this, but and of course, who comes on my show and who I get to speak to for a couple of hours is not a good sample, not a good random sample. And yet, people who do this kind of work have often, from what I've seen, honed some of the skills, the intuitions, the flow, the presence that you've been just describing in another environment before they perhaps find, like you did here, this is my place, this is where I'm meant to be. But I haven't actually been in broadcast TV. So can you, for people who haven't been there, just to give us that sense of, as you were, the roles you were doing, the things you were working on, as you were experiencing that, and you were clearly also learning as a leader of people, a communicator. You talked about all those selves. Give us that sense of the kind of roles you were doing, and how that connects to what we were just talking about.
I did everything possible within television. I started pulling cable, and I ended up being the the venue manager for the broadcasting at big broadcasting events. So, and I think that, like going through all the possible roles that exist in there, that also gave me this multi-perspective, like ability to see in 3, 4, 5, 10 Ds, like, and there was deep understanding of I could see people walking, and in the way they were pulling the cable, I could notice if there was an issue in there or not. I could see people looking at a machine, and the way that they were looking, having this conversation with the machine, I could say, so tell me, what's on it? No, say it out loud. But say it out loud. Ah, now I know. Okay, I can move. Like, so I trained people. I was behind the camera, on the coloring, on the directing, assisting the director. I was managing the floor. I was coordinating, and I was managing with all the stakeholders. I was building teams, anything and everything that it could be. So television is like it's like a big live opera where many infinite number of people in different positions, they need to play the same song or build up the harmony, and everyone is responsible for what they are doing, yet they need to get in sync, so there is harmony, and you can see the result. You see the result on screen, and no matter how many problems are happening, because there's always issues, like you have to make sure that what's on screen, it's harmony and it's flowing, and it's but everyone is taking responsibility: the presenter, the sound engineer, the video engineer, the director, the assistant director, the people behind the light in the camera, the cameraman, everything. Everyone is like 3, 2, 1, boom, and boom, you enter in the flow. And the beauty of live television in sports is that you cannot control what's happening. Like you are there to capture what is happening. So there's no rehearsal thing. There's no do it again, go back. Like as in cinema, or when you are recording TV series, you have maybe a second chance. Live sports, there's no second chance. If you didn't capture that goal, if you didn't get that basket, it's gone and it's forever. There's nothing that you missed it. It's and I think like this high level of synchronicity, this level of energy, intangible energy that is boom. And that you are part of it, you're building it with other people. That's a wonderful experience.
Yeah, and it's I don't know, when I think about my life, there haven't been that many times when I've worked in groups of people, teams that felt like they were in flow or performing right at that highest level. And those experiences, they are valuable. And then what I found, I had one really early on in my career, for example, and most teams I was a part of after that were a bit of a disappointment, because I knew some of what you were just feeling, and we would work to try and approach that. But I love the way you invited that sense there of what it's like. Especially, I really got that feel then, especially for, and I think for the power of those live events. And I really noticed it. I really noticed it during the pandemic, in lockdown, when the football came back, and it was like, oh, here's an actual real thing that we're all. I know I'm well, closest I would have been a couple of miles away from what I was watching, but mostly hundreds of miles away from what's on. But it's like, it's a real thing that is happening right now. And then there's this enlivening, there's this group of people somewhere, in a stadium, in this point socially distanced and all that kind of thing, but working in that way to bring us this dynamic experience. And how that's a different piece really to the recorded things. And yeah, and I can imagine that again, all those experiences, they lend into the work you might do now if you're working with groups of people. Then I'm curious to get a little bit more texture on this kind of your career and all the different strands of it. Because alongside the TV work is various other work as an artist, as a curator, creating, founding different other things that have got alongside. So tell me a little bit about that, or some of those things.
Like there's the multiple self, or and one of myself is the creative self, and there's this curiosity to see things becoming, or to maybe let me put it differently, this need to self-express in different ways, and that's how through you can see if you really look at it, it's like I was having at least three ways highway parallel journey. I was studying. At the same time, I was working on television, and at the same time, I was working in the arts in different roles, all at the same time. And that my creative self was exploring the meaning of life at a different level, with different experiences. I was a video artist, and I was curating video art and media art exhibitions, and that like art is like a door towards other ways of understanding. It's an interpretation and reinterpretation of life, and it helps you see things like in ways that you might not see in the day-to-day. It gives you a perspective, a point of view, and it shows it to you, and then you might say, I like it, I don't like it, it resonates, it doesn't resonate, but in a way, it opens the door towards the realm of imagination. And it's the imagination of someone else who's playing with your own imagination. So for me, that was a playground on one side. For me, it was another exploration journey. And at the same time, I am a big believer that artistic expression, as it helps us to see reality in different ways, it is an amazing, powerful tool for social transformation. So that was what I was doing at the time. I was looking for ways to help people reflect and understand life and existence through creativity and arts. And when you want to do arts and you are not a well-recognized artist, and you are far from becoming one, not even in your list of goals, you are naturally drawn into organizing the events, creating the exhibitions, bringing on other artists, so everything comes by itself. So maybe even natural character. If I look at it, even at school, I was already organizing things, not because I said I want to organize. I don't know how I end up there, like organizing the thing. So in a way, through the arts, maybe, like all of the sudden you have all those video artists around you, and you say, so okay, so what can we do with that? Let's collaborate with other art institutions. Let's organize exhibitions, let's curate, and that helps you think in different terms. Like you said, textures, like working in the arts, it gives you a different texture and a different understanding of the human being and this need for expression and self-understanding.
Beautiful. And right near the start of this conversation, and I've read you write it somewhere as well, might be on your website, you said that since like the early parts of your life, you've been interested in, I think you say, big questions, something like that. How do you remember that early on, and what were the questions you were interested in?
Those are the big questions of human existence. Yeah. And how do I remember? I remember, and maybe, like memory and emotions might be, science tells us that they are very tight one with the other. To me, it was even, like it's a full body emotional experience. To me, it was very difficult to understand how come humans were not able to live in peace. Like that was it. It's a nonsense. Like it's how come? What's going on? What happens? Like what is it? What is it that is in there? I need to understand. This need to understand. And I think this need for understanding how come we humans have not been able to live in peace, it's the driver behind all those different routes for exploration. It's behind why I worked in the arts and I work as an artist, or I curated art exhibition. It's the reason why I kept trying to understand what was happening within the team, within the organization, it's the reason why I continue studying at university and trying to better understand things. So this is the real driver behind everything, was trying to find those answers. With time, I call them temporary answers, because I have observe how I might get an answer, but then I better understand and I get another one. So my life has been a journey of better understanding the temporary answers around why we humans have not been able to live in peace in planet Earth.
And of course, the question that comes now that everyone is thinking is, what's your current temporary answer?
Well, I think first, we are a team, a global team of plus 7 million people who is not aware that we are a team and it's not playing as a team. So we have an identity problem, or an identity issue, or an identity gap in this sense, as a community. As individuals, we also see ourselves in very limited ways. We don't see us in our full potential. We see us as rather materialistic than as spiritual beings. We are energetic spiritual beings who are having a materialistic experience, or even in our materialistic, in our body experience, there is a huge amount of intangibles that are driving our life. Our imagination, our storytelling, mental storytelling, our aspirations, our needs, our assumptions, our emotions, all these intangibles. And we tend not to look at those as part of our reality eye to eye. They are there from time to time, So there is an identity problem or an identity gap at individual level and an identity gap at collective level.
And sorry, let me just catch it at the individual level. Those intangibles.
Yeah.
I can guess what you might be talking about, but what have you seen as those ones? The energetic spiritual being, those intangibles. What are we not looking eye to eye?
We are not paying enough attention at how our imagination is being nurtured. And what is the role of our imagination in our ability and capacity of building our day-to-day lives and the society that we are living. Maybe imagination and the imaginario might be the biggest gap or the most ignored, denied, unknown, intangible that is not enabling us to make the most of our creative power. So we are all creatives. We are all creating our day-to-day life. And we consider creative the artist and the genius, the ones who professionally might dedicate themselves to creativity. Every single human, the most human quality of us humans is our creativity in the sense that we are creating our lives, and we are not aware that we are creating that most of the time, most of us.
What? I mean, I don't know which of these questions is more interesting. Why do you think that is? And or how did you come to believe that?
This has been a 40 plus years investigation,
Yeah.
you know, like, and this is a temporary answer. I would say I have come to understand. My belief is rooted in deep understanding, you know, and it's not that, oh, Marie Reig Florensa is saying that, or, you know, like I read and look and study and ask and question and test in all the different possible ways that all my hybrid career, no, I've been testing everything all the time with everyone, everywhere, you know, like, so it's a belief grounded into understanding. And it's been a journey of understanding, you know, understanding my own imagination, observing what imagination is, or observing what, so imagination. So if we, because it's easier to understand if we go to concrete examples, no, whatever, you have to look at imagine that you're, and I don't want to put your brain on your head, you know. Imagine yourself as a human being, full body, as an empty vessel, you know, like, and then you start putting in there all the things you read, all the things you watch, all the things you are told, all the things you experience, all the things you are taught, everything, and that builds up who you are. And that comes from centuries and millennia of generations of people who are teaching the next one, or showing, leading by example to the next one. Boom, here you are, you know, like, but what you are looking, what you are reading, what you are doing, this is filling up your imagination at the same time, you know, like, and your imagination is your capacity to see possibilities in life happening, you know, like, but if you understand that what you eat is giving you the field of possibilities, then you see that what you see, what you read, what you do, those are those are nourishing you, like the food is doing, you know, like, and we are, when it's about, it's like we are drinking high alcohol, we're taking, you know, like heavy, grassy, non-healthy food all the time into our imagination, and that has effects in our ability to imagine the possibilities of the world and the life that we are creating. No?
And I'm not sure this works as a question, but let's try it. If I could grant you the power to prescribe something to everybody in the world, all 7 billion players on the team, 8 billion, it might be 8 billion now, I think, or more, is it? Like, it's an enormous number of players in this team that we have, right? Something that would feed the imagination instead of what some of the things we take in do to the imagination. Is there something that just feels to you like it always has that wholesome feeding quality to it?
I think, and this is the beauty, there's nothing to be prescribed. Everyone knows within themselves what is needed, you know. Maybe what it needs to be understood is, like, if you act from love, trust, patience, compassion, gratitude, and all those high quality regenerating emotions, and I would even say standpoints of life, worldview, you know, like, if you act on that and you observe without judgment, you know, like, you try, observe without judgment, just try to move 1 millimeter in the direction of love. whenever you're giving, so every moment you're giving the choice. I was about to say, whenever you're given the choice, at every second you're given the choice. So every time that you have to choose, because you're choosing it all the time. I'm choosing it. You're choosing, Robbie. Am I gonna do it for love, or am I gonna do it for fear? Is it, am I moving 1 millimeter in the direction of love, or am I moving 1 millimeter into the direction of fear? You know, like, so just try to look into the direction of love. Observe, and you will know what to do, how to do, and you know, like everyone knows what it's to be done. This is the beauty of this 8 million billion team, that everyone knows. The purpose is there. It's for you to discover and to take on your role. And your role is to be more of yourself. More of yourself. Just be more of yourself. Discover who you are. Find your values. Act on your values. Just find your purpose. Act on your purpose. Search for it. 15, 25, 45, 100 years. Just your search is already bringing into it. You know, like, so I don't think it's about like taking any pill or looking any movie or reading any book that is going to change my life. It's just understanding that there is choice. There is the choice to stay in fear, or there is the choice to stand on love. And I'm not saying it's easier or more beautiful to stand on love, but I'm saying observe. It gives you different possibilities.
And that's the act of imagination, right? It's like you said, imagination is the ability to see the possibilities. So even just to play with that, it's a beautiful invitation to play with taking those two different standpoints. And you could even do it actually, you know, you're saying it's not one movie, but you could do it when choosing a movie. It's like, am I going to choose this movie how I normally do? Or am I going to choose it from 1 millimeter closer to love and see if I make a different choice? You know, all those things. It's like the beauty of the, you don't want to call it prescription, but the beauty of that invitation is that it can be used, like you said, it can be used anywhere, right? At any moment. We always have that choice. And it's not easy. Like that would be my reflection too, just to underscore that for anyone who's going to try something like that. You know, when all kinds of parts, at least this is true for me, when all kinds of parts of my, I don't know, evolutionary self, history, stories, experiences are in play in a difficult conversation with somebody who's important to me, it can be really hard to step back sometimes into love. And yet, you know, that's the job, right? Is to try and do that, is to move towards it. At least that's how I think about it. I'm curious, we talked quite a while ago now. I asked that question about, I can't remember what the question was, and your reframing of it or rephrasing of it was the dark times. And you talked about being times when you're feeling more, because you sound really clear now, right? There's a really beautiful presence and clarity to the way you're talking about these things. But you hinted there have been times when that wasn't so clear, when there was more confusion and lostness. And I'm wondering how you, at different moments of confusion or feeling lost or wonder, you talked about it as well, at different moments over your experimentation and life, you've moved through confusion and loss and wonder, lostness and wonder.
Yeah, and I like to say, no, we need to get lost from time to time to find ourselves. Otherwise, it's difficult to recognize who you are or what you're doing or where you are. But I say, it's part of the adventure. It's part of the exploration. I don't have a sense of, you know, of suffering. Maybe there is this need to understand, you know, like I need to, maybe my deepest lost or dark, it's this need, I need to understand. I need to understand. I need to understand. So you can take that discomfort as something that depletes you, no? Or you can take that discomfort as something that pushes you forward. No? So there's no, I don't know, so exactly what is it that gives you the curiosity of those moments when, what are you looking for? What is your curiosity trying to illuminate?
And to kind of maybe to bring it home, how that shows up, is there a particular moment of feeling lost or confused or feeling that discomfort that comes to mind, a particular time in life that feeling and the curiosity and the illumination, you could talk us through how that played out for you?
I have now 2 moments, maybe I could say now that I might remember. One very early age, looking through the window at home and thinking, oof, I'm so shy, so shy, so shy, so shy. And I have to say something. I'm gonna do. I cannot sing, I cannot paint, what I'm gonna do? What I'm gonna do? Oof, wow. Well, I'll find out. Because you can do nothing else but to, that was, and I remember myself there in that window, wow, okay. And the other one was maybe in the 3/4 through the thesis, after the difficulty of making sense of all the literature review, and having already started all the interviews and thinking it doesn't make sense. There's something here, there's something here, there's something here. It doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense. What is it? 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 Oh, anxiety. What is it? What is it? What is it? There is something. But as I said, all this anxiety, it was like all this confusion was like pushing me to move forward, and to try to, okay, let me ask to people, I see this, but I don't understand. What do you see? I see this, but I don't. What do you see? Do you see what I see? Do you see what I see? Pop, 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 and that boom, pushing me into, oh, now I understand. So all those moments were moments where, it's like they push you, they push you. At least me. Maybe you can take them in many different ways, but to me were moments of, oh, forward, move forward, out of here, one more step, look into this, ask for help.
I can really hear how both of those did. I'm just remembering as well what you said a few minutes ago about there being something calling you on at times in the work, and it feels like those moments were both, like, we can hear, anyone who's just heard we listened to the last, 40 minutes of this conversation can hear that the little girl in the window found some ways to express herself, right? And they've been important, found some ways to say things, and we'll get to, I'm sure, what you found in the thesis, what the thing that was missing was. So it's like these things have really, they feel like moments, important moments, right? The lostness, the confusion, the discomfort was part of the journey, and the curiosity feels important. It does feel like that where, what is it? That's sounds like that's been, so fundamental.
I think curiosity, I don't, there are different types of drivers, but sure, curiosity, because curiosity, it's openness. You need to be open-minded, you need to open your ears, you need to open your eyes, you need to open your mind and your heart. You need to be, when you're curious, you are open. So you are able to receive and to explore different things. No, and then the confusion is this need for understanding. No, that it's because you can stay confused, but you really need clarity. You know, like it's like you're shaking yourself inside, checking. What is it? What is it? What is it? And then, but sometimes you need to shake yourself. You know, like good shakes are made of shaking. Good cocktails need some shaking. You know, you know. So sometimes it's like, that's why, not judging. I don't think there was good or bads in that. Those were different kinds of moments, different qualities of the moments. You know, like I'm that girl looking through the window and thinking, what I'm gonna do? I'm so shy. You know, like what that has maybe helped me to remember through that journey that what I'm looking for answers. You know, like, and okay, I'm shy, but okay, but I'm shy, but when I know the answer, then I feel comfort at sharing it. You know, look at that. So I felt shy. At the time, I was a radio presenter. So you see, shy? Are you shy? You sure you're shy? You know, like all these ambiguities and mixed up. So it's not black, white. You need this ambiguity. It's part of human existence to be in ambiguous moment and to be able to see things from all these different perspectives that ambiguity is giving you. So yes, we need curiosity. I think curiosity is what has taken humans to build the society that we live now. Without curiosity, we might not have changed or evolved or innovate or created or discover or no. So it's curiosity. It's maybe the fundamental driver of human existence.
Yeah. And I think I want to pull out a couple of things there. One of them is, so just to write down the second one because I'm going to forget it if I don't write it down. One of them is, you talked about this great idea that you need openness to be curious. And I think one of the, and maybe it's another, you know, it's shades of gray again. It's not black and white. One of I once heard a man called Guy Sengstock say this great thing about, you know, how when we're feeling, perhaps it's the moments of confusion or lostness, you know, that what we want is the openness and the clarity, but like you can't wish yourself there often, but the curiosity will take you there. So I guess the reason I'm sharing that is if people are listening and they're in those moments and they don't have the they're not finding their natural curiosity in the way that it sounds like you really did, turning to it, choosing the curiosity in the moment, choosing that attitude, which is in some ways an attitude of love, because it's an attitude of like, why am I feeling like this? What is happening here? Why does it make total sense for me to be me, feeling like this, thinking this in this moment? It's in some ways it is choosing love, like you said before, but the curiosity is a kind of, for me, it's been very powerful for that, to know that that can be a choice in the moment, and that it is a powerful one for, and you've given great examples of two there. You've given examples which kind of demonstrate, well, what happens if I, you know, why does it makes total sense to be, well, what is it? What does the shy person do? You know, all those things. So I love that. And I also love this idea that of the shy radio presenter, right? And I just don't think, I think that on the surface, that looks like sounds like a surprising thing. And yet in reality, you know, I think anyone who's paid real close attention to performers of all sorts will have seen that being comfortable on the stage is not the same thing, or on the radio is not the same thing as being comfortable in a room full of people. You know, I heard someone say once, I'm at home on the stage at an event, I'm at home on the stage and I'm at home in the toilet, but everywhere in between I find really difficult. And so it is these things that we can get too simplistic, like you said, too black and white, if we don't get curious that that those two things can't exist simultaneously. And I always get interested when I find myself talking to somebody about introversion version extroversion, but partly because people mean different things by that everywhere they go, but also because it's, my experience of what my life is like is that I am neither the usual dictionary definition of one or the other, right? Maybe I'm a shy extrovert, or I'm an introvert who's learned how to be in a group or something. It's like it's never as simple as that. So I wanted to pull both those things out because I think they spoke to something really nice. And I wondered, Marie, if we could kind of, then I wondered if we could pivot and / rewind to this idea that after the 15 years of quitting and then going back and quitting the same job every year in TV, it was something like, you said something like, there was something else calling to me. There was something else there. And I wonder now if we could kind of step through that looking glass. What was calling you in that time? Why did you finally move on to something new?
Well, it was leading from the heart. That was what was calling me. No, it was understanding what does it mean beyond assumptions and stereotypes, and also understanding how could it be developed. No? So my first leading from the heart encounter, it's myself leading from the heart. Like, boom, what has happened here? Like connecting with the people, sensing the energy, managing.
And make this real for us, like when this first kind of experience, or one of the first experiences, were you leading a team or you're collaborating somewhere? Like where were you? What were you doing? Who was around? And then what was it like? What happened?
I was at a basketball court, like first, like very conscious moment. Like I was at a basketball court managing an international event, and there was some sort of chaos, misunderstanding, technical issues, one of those moments where you don't, again, quitting every year, once a year, you think, what am I doing here again? Why should I have said yes for this? And then all of a sudden, like moving, seeing a guy at the other end of the court and feeling boom, like a sense of an energy in my chest, and reaching him, and he telling me, Maria, forget about it. It's solved. I said, but don't you worry. That there was the preliminaries of that was many times my clients telling me, you go there, you do your magic. You go there and you solve it. I'm not telling you much of what's going on in there, but we need you go. Okay, like this go there. Another Maria will know how to solve it. Interpersonal relationships issues, teams not working, clients unhappy, things, and boop, 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 boop. And then me getting curious about, like, what is it that I am doing that it's making it work? How is it that this team is a conflictive team with that person, and when I come here, they are all happy and performing? What's happening in here? How am I getting us? So you can speak with that guy, or you go and you do it, but I don't. What do you mean that you don't and I can't? What's the difference between you and me? What am I doing differently? What is happening here? How am I helping people to overcome those blockages? How am I getting those teams to flow again? How am I building this collaboration, synergy? How am I finding solutions and overcoming problems and what am I doing?
When did you realize or choose to name it Leading from the Heart?
I first thought, or I call it Leading with Love. No, I thought this is working because I'm moved by love and non-judgment. That was one of my first understandings, was it that I was not judging the person or anyone. And I started to observe how I could solve problems at a distance, and only in the way that I was approaching the place before I arrived. Because first I thought, okay, I started to realize that I had about 1 to 3 seconds to build up the trust with people, new people. I was all the time working with new teams in new places, different situations. And, I started to notice that the click was very fast. And then I started to observe that the click was happening before I was in front of the person. So, that moment when you see the person that you are going to meet, I started to observe that at that moment I was already building the relationship. And I was like, how am I building the relationship? And like, okay. And so I started from the love part, but every time I mentioned the word love, people would get like strange faces.
Yeah.
Like discouraging tone, and I was working on the arts. I was working in the arts, and in the arts there's this wonderful art mediation approach. Like the best thing that you can do is when you are trying to invite new audiences into the arts, because there's high resistance in the arts. Oh, if it's art, I don't like it. I don't. Art, I don't. So love, I don't like it. So it was the same kind of. I said, oh, this is the same thing. This is something here. So in the arts, in art mediation, what you do is actually you stop saying that you are doing what you are actually doing. You don't call it arts. You just do it. And then you observe the reaction of people to see if it's less resistant to what they are experiencing. It usually is. So I said, okay, so if I take out the word love, which one can I use? Which one can I use? Which one can I use? So it was a tactic, it was a strategy. Yeah, and I said, okay.
I both understand, and I think it's a bit of a shame, because I think we need more people really saying love-based leadership, right? It's like, and when people are ready. Now I know strategically why that's important, and what's most important is that messages like this reach the people who need them, right? It's like the art. What's most important is that people experience it, and that's part of how their stories will change about engagement with art. And yet, I always think it's a shame. It'd be nice to just catch the story. It'd be nice if we could just somehow name the story that, the thing is, yeah, go on.
Yet, Robbie, life and the universe always have ways to surprise us, and it was needed, because when I changed the word, I discovered a different door. And through the door of the heart, I was able to understand what it truly means to lead with love. And if it was not through the heart, I would have just taken a part of the story.
So what's the part of the story you would have missed?
The fact that when I say that you are leading from the heart, you are literally leading from your biological heart.
Sorry.
And that changes everything.
Tell me more,
Because, usually when we say, I'm leading from the heart, you think, oh, it's poetics, like how nice, how beautiful. But actually, leading from the heart, it means you have to understand your biological heart it has a memory, it has 40,000 million neurons. It's able to think and process information by itself independently from your brain. Your heart communicates with your whole body and with your brain through 4 different paths: your nervous system, pulse wave, like the pressure of your blood, electromagnetic field, and biochemical, so your hormones. When you lead from the heart, actually, you are taking in high quality regenerative emotions. You're taking a standpoint where you look into love, into trust, into faith. And then everything in your body, boom, follows this path. So actually, your heart and your brain are in constant communication. But the one who speaks more is the heart to the brain. Mm-hmm. The brain is able to modulate the way that you are processing your emotions, your perception, and your thinking. But to do that, you need to put your heart beat into coherence. And to be coherent biologically, you need to experience a high quality regenerative emotion. No? So it's about breathing a little bit deeper and a little bit slower, focusing your attention in your heart, experiencing a high quality regenerating emotion. Yeah? And then, boom, your heart, your brain, and your body enter into physiological coherence. So they start working at their best. You can think more clearly, you can be more creative, you are more intuitive. It's like your whole machine that's performing in the best possible way. So it's not about a more beautiful way to lead or a more ethical way to lead. It's a biological fact that when you lead from your heart, you are more able to perform at your best.
Mm-hmm. You might have just done this, Marie, but if we do, maybe we just slow down on it. I guess there might be people listening who are thinking, and of course there might be leaders listening or people who are, have roles in their family and they want to be in that space with their children or their communities or with their coaching clients. What's a practical, what one or several practical practices that help people to lead from the heart?
I think the easiest way to look at it, and it's not me who is saying, so it's more than 20 years of scientific research by the Heart Math Institute. First step is to slow down your breathing. Slow down your breathing and you go a little bit deeper. That already is affecting all your autonomous nervous system, like breathing. Just breathe deeper. The second is focusing your attention. So you're focusing your mind, no? And whenever, if you focus it in your heart, you're helping, you can even touch the center of your chest. That will, if you can do it now, Robbie, when you touch, yeah, it's like, even if your mind goes away, it comes back because touch is calling you back, no? into what you are touching. No? So focusing into the area of the chest and then intentionally feeling a regenerative, high quality emotion. Which ones are those? Well, gratitude, maybe it's one of the easiest. Compassion, patience, love, calm, whichever. And you can either like be more present in the moment, or you can try to bring back into memory one moment or one place or one situation or one person that is helping you to reconnect with that moment and re-experience it again. And then is when you are entering into heart-mind coherence. Yeah, and then you stay there. You can stay there for a minute, You can stay there for 5 minutes, or you can stay there every time you need to stay there. It's going to help you to modulate your emotions. It's going to help you to recharge your inner battery and your energy. So it's so simple that it seems incredible. You know what I mean? So you're telling me that if I stop, slow down, I breathe a little bit deeper, and then I focus my attention in my heart, and I intentionally recreate a high quality emotion, then everything changes? This is too easy to be true. Try it.
Yeah, and I love the hand on the heart. It just always strikes me as it's like, it does feel like a cheat move. Like it's like it can't possibly, and then I can feel myself changing. I can feel the warmth and the shift in my chest, and I love it. And look, I think, I was reflecting just the other day on one of the things. I'm so glad that one of my early coaches said to me, which is, he said, Robbie, I think you should create a practice to do before every time you're working with a client. And essentially, you've described what would be a really beautiful thing. If a coach is listening and wants to be more heart-centered in their work, you've just described a beautiful practice to do, which would take, like you say, 1 minute, 5 minutes would I imagine make an enormous difference to somebody's practice, to slow down the breathing, to touch the hand to the heart. And in this case, it could be to bring those feelings of gratitude or compassion or love towards the person they're about to speak to. One of my friends, Naomi, she once said that she'd read a book which, invited, it was a book called, I think it was Presence-Based Coaching by Doug Silsby. I think it was from that the practice was to, like, essentially to do at least some of that, right, before every conversation, to, I think, bring to mind what the coach really, he might have well have said loved, I can't remember, or admired or appreciated about the client, to bring those qualities to mind and before the conversation. And Naomi said it completely changed her experience of working with people, which I would guess was because doing that was doing some of what you've just described, at least, and bringing more into alignment and connection and all those things. So let's then connect the story a little, Marie. So is this what took you to the Masters? How does the Masters fit in with this story? When does that connect to heart-based leadership?
Yeah, I finished my human studies degree. It took me 11 years to finish it because I was working and doing all the other things at the same time. And after working in at least two different jobs and studying at the same time, you build up a strong muscle on studies. And I was sure that was not the end. No? So I always say, it's not that I have a degree in human studies, I'm a humanist, because through those 11 years, though, they transformed myself, and I put into practice everything that I was learning at the university through my artistic practices and my work in media, communication, and the arts and everything. And at that point, I was already focused on understanding creativity as a humanist, understanding human values, and leadership was one of the things that was calling my attention. No? Remember that I was looking for ways to better understand why humans were not able to live in peace, and how could I help, or how could I contribute. So I was thinking, like, this leadership thing might help, no, into understanding. So I came across, and at that time, in the last, I was traveling around the world with my job, and I was going from airport to airport, and curious I am, no, I was always buying magazines, for the flight. And once I saw an advertisement from the Berlin School of Creative Leadership. And I find that in a magazine. I love that. I enjoyed that magazine a lot, you know, and I kept that magazine on my shelf. And as I finished my human studies, I took some days, I don't know, to put some order in my shelves. And boop, that magazine fell into my hands again, and I opened, and oh, I see again, you know, Berlin School of Creative Leadership. And I thought, wow, that might be interesting, you know, like creativity, leadership. And it was a master in business administration. And if one quality that was common to all my artistic projects, it was the bad business design that they have behind them.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, like, so I thought, okay, so I really need to improve in my business, you know, acumen and ability. Creativity is my thing, and leadership is my biggest curiosity right now. So I said, okay, let's try it. Let's apply and see what happens. So I took a step into the direction of love, and I knew that I wanted to continue with my personal journey of exploration and discovery through the masters and in the thesis process of accomplishing the masters. At the time, I didn't know exactly what was the title or in which way we were going.
Mm. And how did and the thesis is now done and all that kind of thing, and the master's completed. How did your work evolve alongside that learning, alongside the discoveries around heart-based leadership? How did the way you made your money, or the way that you what the other, I guess you talked about three, didn't you? The study was moving in this way. What was happening with work, which was TV for a long time, but is becoming or has become something different?
So for the last few years, as I mentioned at the beginning, I'm working in media, arts, communication, and television. I had already changed my way of being a consultant, no? And I was less prescribing what was to be done, and more co-creating and creating with the client hand to hand, and truly understanding the needs of the client, and empowering the client to go through or to take over whichever things we might design or change within the organization, so that they could themselves be able to bring them forward when I was not there anymore. No, so my job was to make sure that I would inject myself in an organization, and as long as I leave, they are able to continue creating that work. So what it helped me, it was more to sharpen my pencil, let's put it like that, to better understand what was the value that I was delivering to my client. And I would say that when I finally made the last step of my transition, this 15 years transition, what I did is I just repositioned myself, because I was already coaching. I just didn't say that was what I was doing. They were already calling me for that.
I think
but we didn't use the name for it.
But I think it's funny that, like, I think a lot of people will have that experience of coming to coaching or facilitation, creating learning experiences, having in some way been doing it already, right? But it's what I think's great about your story is people were telling you were doing it repeatedly before you would admit you were doing it. That's a lovely part of the story. And I just think it's worth underscoring a little bit what you've just said there, because I mean, sometimes people are making a change which is more, what would we say, more stark, or has more contrast to it. But mostly what happens, or what's available to people if they want it, is some version of what you've just said, is the kind of the as people sharpen, and to use your word, the kind of the things they've always been doing. In your example, it's so great because you've been talking about the love you're approaching people with, the non-judgment you're approaching people with, these things that the curiosity you're approaching everything with, these things that have been with you throughout your life. You may be people may be sharpening those through some training or through your masters. The thinking, the way you were thinking about heart-based leadership was clearly being sharpened through that and deepened and changed. But it's always available to us wherever we are. And this goes back to another thing you said, to change the place from which we're looking at things. And then it makes total sense. Like you said, it's such a beautiful thing. I just repositioned all the work I was doing because it made sense to do that, because I was me and I'd been learning through all this and I'd been doing it, and I can just retell that story, picking out the different things and seeing things from a different angle. So I love that. And you mentioned at some point in this story, I guess we could say finally, given that everyone had been saying, can you come in and do your coaching thing? I don't want the other stuff. You finally sharpened that part. And I think you said with the Berkeley Coaching Institute, is that right? And why did you choose them? And what was it like to kind of get that piece sharpened?
I chose them because I was there during my master's, doing some part of it. We were doing some modules of the masters in collaboration with other universities. And during the time I was there, I noticed that these guys are doing something in this room. What are they doing? Like the way that they were facilitating the group, like moving the collective emotional body of the group, and like the journey that they took us on, and they even gave us, if anyone is interested in, and I was like, not me, but thank you. very much into but in the booklet that the working booklet that we had during the days that we stayed there was a chapter about the heart. And say, is your heart clear? Is your heart full? Is your heart strong? Is your heart open? What do they mean with that? What's that? Is it really that they are asking, or what is it? No? And that stuck with me through all my research of understanding the heart. So then I went deeper down into understanding what was the philosophy or the perspective of the Berkeley Coaching Institute, and I said, oh, look at that. I'm going that route. I think that's where I want to go. No? And so I was moved to continue finding heart, or understanding the role of heart, or bringing my full self, including heart, into the coaching, and then discovering it, or better understanding what coaching was.
Yeah. And I'm not sure where you are with this. And so, all answers are perfect. But as have you been using that? Are you doing one-to-one work with people? What does that look like? Were you doing that before the qualification or the experience with Berkeley, and how has it changed as you've done that?
I think it has changed into being more clear about what is it that I am doing. Being more like.
So you were doing some of that before, but now it's clearer.
But now I understand what's happening in the room. No, before I was being me, being me in service of, no, and now it's my intentional me is in the room, no, and it understands what is the dynamic, how I create the dynamic, how do I build the energy, what do I do with the energy, how do I perceive the energy. I know what I am, no, I know more like what I'm looking for, or how should I navigate. No, I can be more careful, more respectful, more aware, more responsible of what I'm doing. No, so I have sharpened my skills and my ability. So I have become a much better coach, for sure.
And what's like, I mean, you've named lots of them there, but is there one thing that you feel like has had a really big impact in terms of becoming better, sharper at this? One change, one thing you learned?
Managing the energy, intentionally managing the energy.
Yeah. So
Creating the
say
space.
more about that, managing the energy.
So as a coach, I'm following into the Berkeley Coaching Institute way of being. No, so as a coach, you are being in the space. To me, I believe the coach is more being than doing. No, and the ability to bring yourself consciously into the space and to create the space, showing up and choosing to be present, paying attention to what has heart and meaning, saying the truth without blame or judgment, and being open to outcome, not attached to outcome. No, those are the 4 principles that underlie the Berkeley Coaching Institute, and they are rooted in ancient indigenous wisdom. No? And I think, yeah, acting on that, no, and intentionally being fully present, showing up, listening for what has heart and meaning, saying the truth without blame or judgment, and being open to outcome. I think maybe this is the most difficult one, no? When you are a creative, no, when you are a creative problem solver by profession for so many years, no? Being open to outcome and not attached to outcome, maybe it's the one that is like, because you see solutions and possibilities, but this is not my job anymore. I'm not the one who sees solution and creates them anymore. No, I'm just facilitating a space for those to emerge.
Yeah. Although I hope that sometimes you gift your clients the amazing creative solutions that you see, because that's definitely a part of what you'll be bringing to these conversations. It's interesting. So I just caught that you said there that the Berkeley Coaching Institute, they believe those principles are based on indigenous wisdom. Is that Native American wisdom? Is that where?
That's the work of Ángeles Arrién. And if you allow me to leave the camera for a second and leave an empty frame.
Oh yeah, you'd be cutting away if you were still in charge of the direction of this, Marie. You'd be cutting something different.
It depends. It depends on the moment, if we are raising tension with it or not. No, this is Ángeles Arrién. And she, her work is an amazing body of work. She was studying indigenous cultures all across the world, so it's intercultural knowledge. No, and she was looking for the commonalities. No, how are they? No, how are the medicine women? No, tackling those things. What are the
Lovely. What's the title of the book? Sorry, I missed it then. You did hold it up. We'll put it in the fourfold way. We'll put that in the links wherever people are listening. They'll be able to find a link to that. And it's interesting that it's a reflection I had with another guest recently. I think that, maybe it may have not been on the show. It might be the first time I'm saying this on the show. I had this sort of thought recently that, one of the reasons that coaches are so called for is because we don't have the medicine women in our culture anymore, and we don't have the medicine men, and we don't even have, really, for most of us, at least in the UK and some similar countries, we don't really have priests to take that role in the community, or they're not for all of us, or whatever it might be. So I love that they're using that insight to bring actively and deliberately bring it in. And so Marie, tell us, it's I imagine that having finished the thesis, having seen this idea and having it obviously, and anyone who's listened to this or watched this conversation will be able to see or feel the kind of, what would we say, how aligned the idea of heart-based leadership is with you and for you. What's your work looking like now? Who are you working with? What kinds of work are you doing? Where do the people you're working with come from? All those kinds of things. How's it all showing up in the world, I guess?
Yeah. So I work with individuals, teams, and organizations, and I help them fast track or develop their heart-based leadership capabilities and skills. And where do they come from? I've been lucky. I transform all my major clients, no? So
it's like, don't no one believe Marie for a second. It's not luck, right? It's like we've heard what happened. I imagine. Let me try it, and you can tell me what's real. Like you were already doing it for them. They already knew and trusted you. They would do things like, "Hey Marie, can you go over and do that magical thing over there?" And I imagine you were then able to go to them and say, "By the way, here's this thing. I've named that magical thing that you're always talking about. I've now finally got a name for it. It's this. Can we do it?" And they probably said, yes, please do. Was it kind of like that? What happened? How did it happen?
In a way, I said bye-bye to everyone. Thank you. I love you.
You quit again. Yeah.
Yeah, I love you. And yeah, and then in different timings, people approach back and said, so, okay, so now tell me a little bit more. What is it that you are doing, that you say that you are doing now? Okay, let me think about it. I'll see. And then at another moment, they might have come back and said, that thing that you are doing now, we want to try it in this or in that or with this, or could you do this? Or we have this. Do you think that you can do it in the way that you are doing now? How would you approach it? So yes, yes, in a way, I think, yeah, now I have put it a name to that magical thing. No, it's not magic. Now we know it's not, it feels like magic.
It's still magic.
But it's there is a magic in it, but it's something that we can learn and everyone can do. No, it's not, it's not the marrying. I had a boss who said, let's get Marie to do the marrying thing. No? So it's not anymore marrying. Now it's leading from the heart, and everyone can lead from the heart. And we all are doing it, Robbie. This is the thing. We are already doing in some instances and moments in our life, but we are not doing it consistently.
And it occurs to me, Marie, that's I think you were just talking about leading from the heart, but it occurs to me that that's also the process in some ways that you've been through, and that actually I think probably we could all go through. Like what, in a way you were talking earlier in the conversation about the real, I wrote it down because it's so beautiful, the real uniqueness of our own authenticity. That's Marieing in your case, or Robbieing in my case, right? And if you can then work out, well, what is Marieing? And then you can give it a really good name, like heart-based leadership, then that's amazing, because people can take that and they can really hold it. And all the people who have known you or me through our lives and seen the golden moments that were there, that we've been doing our whole lives, but they maybe didn't always show up as much, then we can do that, just like you're saying with heart-based leadership, more deliberately and more actively and more often. And that's, well, in my view, that's kind of what the work is all about, right? I know it is for you, that best self showing up more and more and more often.
And it's important to say that it's not called heart-based leadership because Marie decided to put it that name because she was smart enough to change the look at ancient cultures and civilizations, Robbie. And you will see, Buddha will tell you, the way is in the heart, the way is not in the sky. You will see the Chanteísta in Native Americans, the Ip in the Egypt, the Lep in the old Judaist traditions, the cardia in the ancient Greece, you'll find it there. It's there. It's been there. It's been there until it got forgotten. So it's not like this is not the latest leadership style and the hype that it's gonna come. First, it's not a leadership style. This is human nature. It has nothing to do with tactics or strategies. It's how your body, your physiology, your being, your human nature works at its best. And it's not Marie telling you that this is the best ever that you could ever try. It's the whole humanity across civilizations repeating it. Yet, I admit, it's not easy to understand until you understand, because when I was, like, the way is in the heart, the way is not in the sky. Yes. I don't understand. I don't understand. The Egyptians, the ritual of the weighting of the heart, where I don't understand, the more I read and I don't understand, like you go into the Bible and you look at the places where the heart is mentioned and how it's mentioned, and you try to understand, again and again but when I was able to, then, and then you connect contemporary science and the work of the Heart Math Institute, and then you go into understanding how actually your ethics, your values, your vision, your mission, your purpose, it's actually contains an energetic, intangible dimension in it, and how this connects with your emotional being, and how when you manage your emotions, when you are able to stay into regenerative high or low energy emotions, how your physiology works completely different than when you are on fear side. Then when you start understanding a little bit better team spirit, organizational spirit, like when you start meaning, fulfillment, intuition, when to me, understanding it was able to close the circle. So I'm a humanist. So my job is to unite the dots between different branches of knowledge that they tend to become very specialized, but they don't talk to each other. So, and I do that to build out meaning of what is human existence. So what I did is I took things that were said in spiritual traditions. I took things that were in leadership, academic and practitioners research. I took what emotional intelligence and positive psychology was saying, and I took what science and biology and the Heart Math Institute and everyone was saying, and I put everything on top of the table, and I said, what is it? Poop, 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 poop. Now I understand. Because we look at things from narrow side perspectives, but ethics, emotions, biology, spirituality, they are the same, but we're just changing the color of the glasses, and they are all connected, and they all build energy. Leadership is energy, and it's an energy that you can intentionally build. How do you build? Being in alignment of what you believe, what you feel, what you do, what you become. Boom, energy, boom. And then you become a being who is taking the potential energy of the universe and is shaping it intentionally. You do it all the time. You imagine that you want to become a coach. You search for the possibilities to becoming a coach. You go through the process. You become a coach. You coach. You want to eat an ice cream. You go to the ice cream shop. You imagine yourself that you're going to be happy eating the ice cream. So you're moved to go to the ice cream shop and you eat the ice cream. So it's all not this process of creation. It's constantly happening, and it's happening through ethics, emotions, biology, and spirituality all the time. And it builds up an energetic spiral, the same spiral that emotions are drawing, and the same spiral that galaxies are drawing, and the same spiral that the DNA in the human body is drawing. It's all the same. It's all the same.
Marie, for people who are listening to this and they are captured by what you're saying, what's the best thing for them to do? Where's the best place for them to go? Is it like, how should they connect with you, or how should they engage with your work on this? Because I imagine for some people this will be, there's a universality to it, but for some people this will be really, really speaking to them. Where should they go?
They can visit my website. There is a section which is called Journal. In there, I share, I write from time to time. I should be writing more. I'll try to. I owned it. They can write me. They can ask me for a PDF with my thesis. They can read it. They can take on the free survey that it's on the website. They can follow me on social media. But I would say I am here. If anyone would like to ask questions or need, of course, service is my job. But there's no need to follow me in order to discover more or to flourish yourself, or to, if you feel like, oh, that resonates. There's a million ways to continue. The most simple one is observe, don't judge, breathe, and move a millimeter in the direction of love. Just 1 millimeter. So whatever they feel like, if they are curious, they can Google that, me, my name, your name. They can listen again, rewind, fast forward, whatever. I don't like prescriptions, as you can notice, like directions. Of course, I can give directions. If I can help, I'm here to help. If I can orientate, just reach out and let me know, and I'll help you in whichever way.
Yeah, I don't think it's prescription. I think it's more, you've been in this space and you've given some great ones, right? We've got the book that we were talking about earlier. Of course, there's your thesis, and that's a very generous offer. There's other writing, but I think it is sometimes that, the internet is a big place, and to have some sense of where to start can be really difficult. And so that's why I'm asking that question. Really, I think you've given us some lovely ones, but is there anything else that either any resources or people who have really, any other resources or people that we haven't mentioned that have really supported your journey in this way, or anything else that we haven't spoken about that you want to catch before we bring the conversation to a close?
I will invite them, if they are coaches and would like to continue exploring, to follow the Heart Math Institute.
Okay.
Because I think they are science-based, more than 20 years specialists, and they have developed techniques and strategies to help develop your own heart-centeredness.
Lovely. And yeah, we'll put links to that wherever people are listening, and at thecoachesjourney.com. Well, Marie, it's been a pleasure to have this conversation, to explore these things, to hear and learn more about you and about this piece of work, which yeah, as you rightly pointed to, is been a part of human awareness and human wisdom traditions for a very, very long time, and is not in our conversation as much as perhaps you and I would hope it would be. So thanks for making it a little bit more in the conversation, for me and for anyone who's listening. And yeah, I really, really appreciate this.
Thank you for the invitation, no? And the opportunity, no? To, in speaking about the journey, inviting others, no? To stay on the side of curiosity, to continue exploring themselves, no? And not letting it go, but chasing that thing that is in there, telling them that there is something more that needs to be understood or to be discovered, whatever it is, no? Follow interest, follow interest, follow interest, because behind interest there is energy, and behind the energy there is always a beautiful gift.
Lovely. What a wonderful way to end the conversation. Thanks, Marie.